Toronto Centre.
And thank you very much, Speaker, for the opportunity to rise to speak in this House once again, and to speak about an issue that touches the heart of all of us, the fundamental right to affordable housing. I stand before you representing Toronto Centre, a vibrant community deeply impacted by the housing crisis that we are debating today. In Toronto Centre, and as is in many parts of our province, the dream of affordable housing is slipping away. Our constituents face ever-increasing rents, limited housing supply options, and a specter of dem evictions. Many members of this House understand the housing crisis through headlines. Some of you have had your own personal experience of living underhoused and perhaps even living with homelessness. My constituents in Toronto Centre understand the housing crisis from that particular lens through lived experience. The motion before us today calls upon the Government of Ontario to take decisive action to increase the supply of affordable and non-market housing, Speaker. This is not merely a request, but it is an urgent necessity backed by the devastating statistics and lived experiences of many in our communities today. The motion asks the government to make a choice. Is housing fundamentally a human right, or is it simply a private asset, a mere commodity? And if you accept that housing is a human right, Speaker, the government has to step up and start putting shovels into the ground to build housing for people and not just for profit. In Toronto Centre, we've seen the impact of policies where we are pursuing the free market forces and exclusively to that, and that is not palatable. That cannot be contained, and it cannot be sustained, I should say. From the church in Wellesley Village to St. Jamestown to Regent Park, all of it is being threatened by speculative pressures and a lack of investment in non-market housing. My constituents are seeing rising rents everywhere, and we're also seeing our small businesses struggle to stay on those main streets, which we know are absolutely critical to building vibrant and inclusive communities. Ontario's housing crisis is at a breaking point. And we can't afford to continue to waste time. But how did we get here? Because it wasn't simply overnight. The housing crisis feels very complex, and the answer yet is somewhat simple. It's a lack of leadership and political will. Under the Conservative leadership, we've seen this government waste time in addressing the housing crisis, and yet despite press releases, photo ops, and other opportunities where the government gets in front of the camera to talk about their good work, we are not seeing the outcome, Speaker, and that is why housing starts have fallen by 7%. The government is not on track to meet their housing target of 1.5 homes by 2031. That is just a mere 7 years away. Across the country in British Columbia, we see a different story unfold. And it is a story where you have a government, an NDP government, that is putting people first. And this NDP government is seeing their housing starts go up by 11%. So what is the NDP BC government doing right? And how are they changing the storyline there? What they're doing, largely, has been inspired by Ontario's own Affordable Housing Task Force. They're implementing the same recommendations that this government's task force asked them to implement as of 2 years ago. The NDP government in British Columbia is legalizing more affordable housing options, such as semis, townhomes, multiplex apartments in many neighborhoods. They are also designing and pre-approved housing designs so the homes can just be built very quickly. You're basically pulling development permits, and they're actually designating areas as of right. Of course, we're also seeing that they're also changing the building design as well as the building materiality, and all of this is making things move a lot faster, which is exactly what we need to do here, Speaker, in Ontario, is to be able to take all of those good ideas and scale it up as quickly as possible and export it to every single corner of our province. BC now builds 2.5 times more housing than Ontario, and that's when it's adjusted for size. And we know that BC is now spurring on the construction of a rate of 150% more than we are in Ontario. So all that talk about making sure that workers, construction workers, get to their work sites is all talk if we don't have housing to build. And it's important also, Speaker, to know that this government has failed to meet their target, and they're going to continue to miss their target, largely because their target has to be 12,500 homes every single month if we are going to reach that $1.5 million housing target. And they're not going to do it. So the government has started to count all sorts of other homes as part of their count, such as long-term care beds, student dormitories, and pretty soon I think they'll be counting tents. And of course we know that a tent is not a home, Speaker. We know that everybody in Ontario deserves a home. We can all think about the way we feel about our homes, how we feel safe in our homes, how we gather with our families in our homes, and every single Ontarian deserves to have that, Speaker. And I want to just finally wrap up by saying affordable housing is something that we have to get behind. It is not optional anymore. Governments have to be partners and leaders in this sector, without which it cannot get done. Thank you.